Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Total Spotlight Show. I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. We continue to rock and roll with some great interviews, so I'm excited to welcome to the program Matthew Fuller from Oddballz. Matthew, thanks for calling and thanks for coming on the Total Spotlight Show. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you offering a platform. I'm very excited to talk with you.
Oh, absolutely, and it's always a great time to talk to you. But you're doing some amazing things. But however, your background is very, very amazing as well. So tell us your background.
Well, my background, I grew up and as a child was very focused on music. I was a member of the Maryland Boy Choir, which was a Grammy-winning choir. I got to travel to Philadelphia, Toronto, New York City, and all kinds of places, performed in the White House. And then I was also interested in sports. I was on the high school football team, high school track team, and was an amateur boxer. Got to box in Las Vegas, Detroit, a lot of places. Sports and music were a big part of my upbringing. And then I had the great experience of going to college and participating in boxing on a college level. And I earned a scholarship to law school. And first year of law school, I was elected by my peers to be the representative of our class. And I formed a partnership with the Homeless Children's Education Fund. I've always volunteered in education, and when I got to Pittsburgh, I wanted to do something with the community, and so we had law school students tutoring in battered women's shelters around the city, just trying to work with the most vulnerable children and provide them what I feel is a fundamental human right, which is access to education.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I became disabled in law school. I kind of turned back to music just for palliative reasons, just because it was healing, it was therapeutic to just sit down and play the piano. I ended up with a group of friends being part of a production team that produced a Grammy-nominated song for Ludacris and worked with many other, mainstream hip-hop artists, T.I. and Lil Wayne's label, Young Money.
Grammy-nominated, two big runs. This amazing music, just in different genres for sure.
Right. It was one when I was a child. We did classical choir music. And then after I became disabled, I got into hip-hop. And we also actually had the chance to work with Cindy McCready, who has passed away, but she was a really talented country artist. So then this is actually kind of, for the Oddballz, my third run in music. And it basically just started, I had fought for about 10 years, and it eventually gotten to the point where I wasn't going to survive. I just started kind of playing kids' music around the house. Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for my daughter. And, I let some friends hear it and stuff, and people were saying, this is commercial-grade music. You should try to make something of it. And so that's where the Oddballz comes from, is actually just having fun with my daughter.
That's so amazing, great things you're doing. But the process of getting disabled from, your law school, your dreams are to be a great lawyer. So how did you get disabled? Tell us the story.
It was my first year of law school, and I started feeling weaker. I started feeling faint and having stomach pain, and I didn't know what was going on. I was very excited to be working in a local community, but it was kind of like there were two trains going on, and one train was headed in the right direction, which was scholarship and things like that, and then there was another train headed in the wrong direction, which was my health, which just declined and declined. Eventually, I transferred to American University Law School in Washington, D.C., did out a year of law school at Pitt, and then go back. And I finished a year of law school there, and then I had to sit out a semester at American and then go back. And then I eventually graduated and received my GED, worked, numerous places in the legal field. Unfortunately, it's just something that's still even ongoing to this day. I have 2 more surgeries that I have to get this year. So after that major surgery and having the downtime, that's when the Oddballz came about. But yeah, it was completely surprising because I wasn't a person who lived an unhealthy lifestyle. I ate clean. I certainly exercised a lot. And it was completely unexpected and something that took me by surprise.
And it's just a health situation that's out of your control. It just has turned worse and worse. People that have suffered from this condition, after reaching out to people who have gone through the same types of things as you and kind of formed a community to talk to them about that stuff going through?
Well, it's sad that there aren't enough community groups. I'll try to attend community groups that are set up by hospitals get there, and the only person there is myself and the moderator.
Oh, my.
From knowing people personally who are in my same situation, a lot of people are just housebound, unfortunately, unable to participate in a lot of just life in general. So that's been my experience in trying to form some kind of community. Since creating the Oddballz, I've become involved with a lot of different disabled persons with various disability issues. One person I connected with recently was a gentleman named Peter Elvidge, who is a blind pixel animator, and I was just amazed that this blind gentleman could generate art the way he does, and he actually did our Twitter avatar, and we posted on our Twitter account a YouTube interview that I just asked him to do to kind of explain to people how it is that a blind artist could create such animation. So that's one good aspect of the Oddballz for me personally, is that it's allowed me to connect with the disabled community. 1 in 5 people are disabled, so disabled people are all around us. I have a next door neighbor who's disabled. I have family members who have lost their lives to disease. I have friends who are disabled. When I go pick up my daughter from school, there are disabled people. But the problem is, disability is a heavy burden to bear.
Yes.
And so to bear that heavy burden and simultaneously be vocal is a bit much for some people. And so there's not a lot of discourse because people are too busy being sick to talk about being sick.
Now, let's kind of, Matthew, jump into the stuff that I think you're going to be a tremendous help for kids with disabilities that know they can go ahead in life and be successful. You went into, after being disabled, then you had success with your music. You could have just rolled it all up and said, I give up, right? Be miserable, but instead, so kind of explain to us, with your musical background, how you kind of made another run. I mean, anyone that goes to law school, how many people get the opportunity to get into law school? You have reached the pinnacle in music. How did you do that being disabled? I think that's a great story that can go out to the entire world, that you can live with suffering and difficulties and yet use your gifts and talents to make a difference or to be unbelievable.
Well, first, I was fortunate to have parents that took me to choir rehearsal and things like that when I was younger. So I always had music as a passion in the background, even while I was focused on academics. The passion with music is basic. I just think that life is, for all of us, a series of crossroads, even for healthy people. And so I came to my own crossroads, and I don't want to give myself too much credit because it's almost the natural reaction, right? I mean, you see on the path on the left, there is give up, lay down, and do nothing.
Misery, suffering, and live with no existence at all. And the other is to take the gifts and talents that you were given and go with it.
Yeah, the other is to, find happiness for yourself and find a space in which you feel comfortable. Physically, while we're disabled, we might not feel physically comfortable, but I think it's important to be mentally comfortable and find something, whatever it is, that keeps you going, because health is always only a day away. I feel like I'll wake up tomorrow and hopeful that after these surgeries I'll feel much better. But in the meantime, you're at a crossroads where, well, do I lay down and quit, or do I do what I enjoy, or do I try to make a difference? Do I try to do something that says, I was here? And I think that's important for disabled people. If there's anyone listening who's going through a crisis and who's at that point where they're kind of decided to lay down, it's okay to reminisce, and it's okay to feel sorry for yourself. I wouldn't say it's not okay to sorry for yourself and to mourn a little bit what you've lost in your disability. But when that's over, at the end of the day, there's still time to take action. And that's what I would encourage people to see, is that it's never too late to take action. When we talk to Mr. Elvidge, he's losing his vision, still creating artwork. I was told in 2013 that I would need a wheelchair for the rest of my life. But I think it's just a matter of coming to a crossroads and saying, no, I've had enough. You can't choose the cards you're dealt, but you can choose how you play those cards.
Exactly. You play those cards in the music business. And how did you get respected and known so that you work with such amazing artists in the rap industry? Tell us that story.
I was musically inclined. I had friends. We were approached by people who had, good money and top-of-the-line professional studios. And they said, hey, I'll give you access to my studio. I did some local radio jingles for the stations in town.
Okay.
And then the national artists would hear our compositions and say, hey, this is great. You guys have got to come to Houston. You guys have got to come to New York. You guys have got to come to L.A. By the time we had a certain number of songs on national radio, it only made sense to move to Atlanta, which was a hotbed of hip-hop production. That move is what allowed us to go from interacting with major stars once a month to every day, in the studio every night. This whole time I was in Atlanta, I was being hospitalized. So, there'd be something going on, the Grammys, the MTV Awards. I was unable to travel to those things because of my health. Due to my pre-existing conditions, I could not get health care in the state of Georgia. And that, I think, is really a tragedy, not just a personal tragedy for myself, because it, who knows where I might be if I were allowed to continue my career on the same trajectory. Disrupted my life, disrupted my career. I mean, here I was denied the opportunity to be a legal professional due to disability. I played my hand in music and was working with superstars. And then, once again, due to disability, opportunity was cut short because of limited access to health care. And that's why I will always feel that health care and education are both fundamental human rights. And that's what we'd like to promote with the Oddballz, disability identity and the notion that everyone deserves health care and everyone deserves education. We'd like to increase awareness and access to both.
And so basically you had to stop your career because of health, leave Georgia where you can't make it to the big time as a producer and get that Grammy and get really, really well known as a music producer and kind of start again with Oddballz.
Yeah, exactly. I had to start again. And my intention wasn't to start again with music. I was actually, fed up with the music business, and I still don't really like the business aspect of music. I really enjoy just making music. And so I came back. I had a child who was born, and she's been the best thing that ever happened to me. All kids listen to children's music. So we get in the car, and we've got the Itsy Bitsy Spider playing. And then we get home, and, I break out the keyboard and play Itsy Bitsy Spider. And
so Oddballz developed through that. So give me the whole encompassing part of Oddballz.
We just started with music, and then music needs a vehicle. It needs a cast of characters. So I thought disability would be the perfect social issue for me to take on. But disability is so personal to me, and I consumed so much children's entertainment as a parent and saw the lack of disability representation. I was really inspired by Dora the Explorer when I saw, how well Dora the Explorer conveyed Mexican culture to the mainstream. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if there was something like that conveyed the disability experience and had a disabled character. So that's kind of where the inspiration for the Oddballz came from. We have our main focal ideals. First one is simply the representation of disability identity. In that, I don't mean necessarily disability issues and conveying disability problems, but simply the presence of a disabled character. It's like, let's start there. Let's just have a disabled character on the screen and see where things go. Our second issue is cultural understanding. We wanted to create a diverse cultural group. I think mutual respect and understanding for each other's individual identity is very important. So we're pushing that as gender empowerment. I think it's very important that we have strong female characters. There are just so many women out there who are amazing. I think it's time that they get the spotlight. And in addition, we also want to cover anti-bullying. Violence against children is unacceptable. And when I've gone back to my high school and my junior high school had the opportunity to speak, I've told the kids, you're here with each other because you live in proximity to one another. And that makes you members of the same community. And so if you're having violence in your own community and you're not controlling and regulating your own community, how are you going to succeed in the outside world? Exactly. And so I always try to push that message of community to young people to respect the person next to you.
Now, so these characters, how are you planning on using them?
Well, we plan to use the characters eventually in full animation. We weren't anticipating this much attention and this much success this early, but we're getting the nonprofit up now. For those who want to donate to help us get the funding to get the nonprofit up, you can do that on our website, theoddballs.com. But we eventually would like to have a Dora the Explorer-like series. And so the characters do all have story behind them, which is where we want to push the last issue that I was going to discuss, childhood obesity. We want to encourage children to be more active and live a fit lifestyle. And that's part of what I think our music does in being up-tempo and fun. We encourage dancing and getting active.
The program's amazing. Definitely going to be back. A great conversation. We'll definitely have to continue this conversation offline at one point and see how we can help each other out. And thanks again for calling, Matthew.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for the opportunity.